Hi and welcome back. I'm Amber. I have pink hair now. Although you probably can't tell it's pink because, yeah, the pink dye was awful. Anyway, on another topic, let's talk about Love Guaranteed, which is a movie that I honestly thought I was gonna like because I like the main characters' actors. I like those actors. But you'll see, it has a few holes in the story. We're gonna go over those right now. So Susan Whitaker is a lawyer played by Rachel Lee Cook, who I haven't seen since She's All That, which I really liked that movie back in the day. I need to watch that again for sure. Maybe I'll watch it on this channel. But I remember liking that movie a lot. But she honestly doesn't seem to have aged at all. Like you can tell that she's older. To me, she looks exactly the same. It's kind of hilarious. Anyway, Susan likes to help people and she likes to take on pro bono cases and do things that are right, whether or not they bring in any money. So, of course, she's broke because, doing the right thing doesn't often turn out to be profitable, but she's very like gung ho. Like her first case of the movie, which she wins, by the way, is a pro bono case for this old man that I think got hit by a bus or something.
I'll find a way to pay you back. I promise.
And even though she takes on these cases pro bono and doesn't make any money, she has these two co-workers that are super quirky and adorable, and I really like them in this movie, actually. They're pretty funny. So one day, she runs into Nick at a coffee cart, and of course, he's making fun of her pumpkin latte, which is hilarious to me because, like, who cares if the flavors are artificial? Nobody, obviously.
Pumpkin spice latte. No pumpkin in it.
And it turns out that, ironically, he is her first client that morning and he wants to sue a dating website called Love Guaranteed. So apparently this website has a loophole that says like, oh, you'll find love within 1,000 dates. And he's been on like 900 and something. He has like 10 or 12 to go or something like that. So this lawyer is like, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to take on this case. Like, you're just a loophole exploiter, blah, blah, blah.
He's a classic loophole shark. He's exploiting this company over a tiny detail in the fine print.
But, like, I mean, you can tell that, like, he has other plans. Like, I don't think that he's as evil as she's making him out to be. But, like, apparently she has some sort of, like, aversion to money or something because she doesn't want to take the case, regardless of whether it's, a loophole or not. She's not really that kind of lawyer. But as they drag her water cooler out, she realizes, yeah, we have no money and her business is going to go under and they're going to totally go broke. And then her poor, sad little employees won't have a place to work. So, of course, she takes the job. So while all of this is going on, Susan mentions that she's never been on a dating site and she's never been on an online date. So her coworkers are like, ooh, and they like jump all over it and they get a little too excited to like set her up on this dating site. So they set her up on the actual dating site that they're about to sue. Like they make a profile for her on the dating site that they're about to go to a court of law and get a whole bunch of money from. And they're like, oh, well, let's just use this because it's totally going to work, even though your client that you literally just accepted the case is suing. So you are suing, and now we're going to set you up on this. Anyway, that's ridiculous to me. I'm like, there's 100 other dating sites. Like, just pick a different one. But of course, like, as soon as they sign her up for this dating site, they use, like, this drunk picture of her, and her inbox gets swarmed. Like she's got like a bunch of new messages and they like click through all the photos and like every single one is like a young, hot, shirtless man, like just like super like model looking, like Abercrombie ripped. And I'm just like, really? Like within 10 minutes this happened. So then we have this interesting like back and forth. So Susan goes to interview all of the dates that Nick went on to make sure that it's valid, make sure that the other side isn't going to be able to like, throw their case out and stuff like that. So she has to go interview these girls that Nick went on dates with. And like, they're all saying like, oh no, he's like a nice guy. He's great. And he's not like all the other guys that I dated. And then she's like, these other guys did what? And then it will like pan to her going on like these dates with these men from Love Guaranteed. And they're just all terrible. And so of course she's surprised because she's never been on an online date, which I'm like, okay, so for a movie like this, like who hasn't been on an online date? Like who? Have you guys never been on an online date? I mean, I understand if you're like a certain age, but this is like a full grown woman who like owns her own business. She's a lawyer. Like she has all of this stuff going on and she's never been on an online date. Like, has she not dated at all? Like, I mean, I guess it goes in a little bit to her romantic history, but really like never having gone on an online date is like totally unrealistic for this movie. And like, if you've never been on an online date, why would you take a case? I mean, I guess for the money because they're broke. But why would you take a case against this online company if you have no idea what online dating is actually like? Like, that's kind of irresponsible, to be honest. I guess that's why she does go on the dates, just so that she can like feel it out and see how it actually works. But still, like, why? But like, I think it's funny that they always in online dates show these like horrible people, which it's funny, right? Like, it makes you laugh. And like, I myself have been on some really horrible online dates. Like, they've been terrible. But like, I've also been on some like really good online dates. Like, I've totally been on successful online dates where I really liked the person and we got along really well and they were like semi-normal. Like, nobody is normal. That's why I say semi. Nobody's normal. You know, there are some successes. Like, a lot of people meet online. In fact, I actually looked it up, and 39% of couples that are together in the US right now met online. So like 39%, that's almost half. This is people that met online and have successful relationships. It's 39% of US couples. Okay, yeah, there's bad dates out there. Like, there's weird people. Like, you're meeting humans, but it's not the dating site's fault. It's just because people are weird. So next we come to a part where Susan is naturally curious about where this guy works and spends his days. So she decides, instead of emailing him some forms to sign, she's going to take them over in person. And surprise, surprise, my initial suspicion of him being a nice guy, of course, comes true, because he's working at a medical rehabilitation center with none other than, at that very moment, the client that she won the case for pro bono in the beginning. And his rehab advisor volunteers at that place, and of course it's Nick. Of course it is. So the reason that Nick hired her as a lawyer, even though she has a really small firm and they're taking on this big company, is because his patient at the volunteer rehabilitation center recommended her. So I mean, I guess it makes sense. It makes it a less of a small world, but like, of course, he's like a volunteer at the medical center. And so here is where I run into a little bit of suspicion again. So Nick is this awesome guy. He's like a retired baseball player. He's like a nice guy. Like, he pays for every meal and he is very much a gentleman. Like, all of the girls that she goes to like talk to were like super weird apparently, but they're also like really impressed by how nice of a gentleman Nick was. After 1,000 dates, bro, you couldn't find someone? Like, 1,000 dates? Really? Like, are you telling me that 1,000 of these women were absolutely crazy? Like, what does that say about women? That like kind of makes me a little bit like, that's not great. That's not a great image that you're putting on like women. Like, we are not all crazy. Like, yes, some of us are crazy, but some men are crazy too. So it's like, you're basically telling me that this like perfect ideal ex-sports player who has enough money to take women on breakfast, lunch, and dinner dates every single day until he reaches 1,000 women can't find a single person to date? Very suspicious. Also, he volunteers. Like, I mean, come on. This guy is like, they're showing him as like having no faults, and the 1,000 women as having like all of the faults. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so Nick tells her at the rehab center that he's about to go on his 1,000th date. And she knows where he's going because he always takes the girls to the same place. So she decides that she's going to totally spy on him, which is like shameless. Like, you know, you're doing research. Like, I think that she had like some little like romantic sparks at this point, because she's like, you can tell like it's not just about work. Like, she got a little personal interest in there. So she goes to this restaurant that he's meeting this girl at, and his 1,000th date, of course, it's this crazy person, and she's like, I'm allergic to everything. And she's just this like whiny crybaby who like literally has allergies to everything on the menu.
Dairy, gluten, seeds, or nightshades.
And it's of course she's annoying. But like, you know, you're supposed to assume that all 1,000 dates were equally as annoying as this girl. But anyway, Susan is spying on him, and of course she gets caught. And then of course, like, the waitress is like, ooh, I like this girl. And then they start eating dinner because like the other girl leaves and is like not about that life at all. And so eventually they end up like having dinner and like having good conversation, and there's like sparks and everything is going great. And I'm like, okay, so you easily clicked with this lawyer girl, but the 1,000 other girls were just, they were nobody. But yeah, they don't end up kissing or anything at the end of the night. There's like a weird handshake. I don't know.
It's my signature end of the date move.
So they go to the big meeting with the lawyers from the dating website, and it turns out that it's run by this like bougie celebrity, and like everything's super bougie. She's played by Heather Graham, who is like the pharmaceutical rep slash like super hilarious character in Scrubs, which like I haven't really seen her in anything else, but like I know her from Scrubs, and Scrubs is like one of my favorite shows, so I was like, oh, look who it is. So, like, you know, that made me a little happy. But she plays, like, this super, like, over-the-top, bougie, like, you know, meditation guru person. And so, while they're in this meeting, the lawyer of the bougie chick, like, offers them $100,000 as a settlement to sign the NDA and, like, let it all go. And then Susan is like, oh, but that wouldn't even cover the cost of all the dates that he went on. And, like, that kind of stopped me for a minute. I was thinking about that. I'm like, $100,000? Like, if this dude has $100,000 to go on dates with, which would make it what, like $100 a date? If he has $100,000 to spend on breakfast, lunch, and dinner dates with 1,000 different women, why does he need to like have a lawsuit? Like, I guess it's not about the money. I guess he's just trying to be like, oh, well, honesty matters. But like, you really spent $100,000 on 1,000 girls that you really didn't like in order to make a point that like this company is not honest and love cannot be guaranteed. Like, wow, and he's still like portrayed as like the perfect guy. Like, what? So they're like, no, we need more than that. And they're like, oh, this is not a negotiation, which is like, okay, like, we get it, you're big corporate lawyers. And they're like, well, we're gonna go to court instead, and we're gonna get $1 million. So as Susan continues to prep for this court date, as it's coming up pretty soon, she does a little digging in his social media past and finds this like ex-girlfriend who is like a super, super hot, like model looking girl.
OMG, she's gorgeous.
I guess, you know, if you're into the whole supermodel thing.
Everyone is.
Most people are.
And she decides that she's gonna go talk to this girl because she's like, well, the other side might talk to her, so like I should probably go. So the girl like lets her in the house and everything, and they're talking, and then she realizes like after talking to her for like 2 seconds that their relationship was like 2 years prior, which is funny because it's like that's the only information you get about this girl. Like, I don't even know her like storyline, plotline, whatever. All you know is that she and Nick dated like 2 years ago, and so Susan gets all like flustered and was like, oh well, it predates my case, so I'm just gonna go. But later she ends up admitting to Nick that she went and like did that snooping for the case. And he was like, oh yeah, well, you know, she just like up and moved out like right before we were gonna get married because like we were engaged, and apparently she cheated and she was with somebody else. So then while they're together, Susan's sister goes into labor, and she and like this guy like stay to like watch the kid, which is funny because they're like hanging out as if they're a couple, but like they're not a couple, they're not working, and he just stays to help watch the kid just because. And like then at the end of the night, like after bribing the kid with ice cream to go to bed, which is a really bad idea, they have this like moment where like they're gonna like kiss, or like they're gonna have this like moment, and it's just this like awkward like forehead kiss. Like, I'm not about that. I'm like, just get it over with. Like, the reason maybe why you couldn't get it on with any of the 1,000 girls that you went on this dating website, maybe it's because you got no game at all. And like, I feel like every movie that I do, I'm gonna get super annoyed with, because like when it gets to the part where there's like, there has to be some sort of like conflict in a story to make it good, because then there's like the resolution at the end and you feel all great and everything. But like, why does the conflict always have to be like grown up people acting like idiots and like just really not communicating, not saying how they feel? Like, how old are you? But like, if you're a lawyer or like a pro baseball player, or like you volunteer, you do all this stuff, like you have your own life, like you're able to pay your mortgage, like just say how you feel. Like, I don't understand why people don't. Like, just say it. Like, if you're annoyed about something, say it. If you're happy about something, say it. If you like someone, say it. And I understand that there's an underlying fear. But, like, as an adult, like, it's kind of your duty to, like, overcome those fears for these, like, grown-up people to, like, act like this is a high school teenager movie, like, annoys me. It just does. Like, come on, just act like adults and communicate. Say how you feel. And I feel like that's really good advice for everybody, because like I am actually very bad at saying how I feel, and I've been practicing it for like 10 years now, when I realized that it's really important that if you don't say how you feel, you'll end up in terrible situations because you're not going to get what you need because you didn't say how you feel. So it's like, of course these people end up not getting what they need because they refuse to say how they feel. So after the forehead kiss, which is very annoying. The next day, Susan is all like super like giddy and happy and like dancing, and all of her joy gets interrupted by this lawyer, and he's basically like, I'm gonna spill all of my side of the case, details to like freak you out. And I'm like, that's not how lawyering works. Like, I'm pretty sure that unless you have to, you don't tell the other side your strategy. Like, unless you're legally required to tell the other side, and even then, I can't imagine that a huge company like Love Guaranteed would like even try and follow those rules. Like, they would definitely try and find a loophole, but instead he calls her up and he tells her, oh, we're bringing that super hot ex-girlfriend to the stand and we're gonna undermine your whole case. Oh, and by the way, if you fall in love with this guy, then your case is out the window. And I'm like, bro, you're like telling her all of the details. Like, you're giving her the entire case so that she just has a couple of weeks to like figure out a rebuttal and like overthrow what you've got. Like, you literally just laid all your cards out on the table. Like, what kind of massive company lawyer are you? Like, I mean, I wish that corporate lawyers were this stupid, but I just know that they're not. And like, I'm surprised that they haven't lost lawsuits before. I guess people walk away with the 100,000 like to not pursue, like if they did have that situation before. But I doubt anyone else went on 1,000 dates from that website. Like, I online dated a lot and I never even got to 1,000. 1,000? You know how many people that is? Like, that's so many dates. Like, whew, that's a lot. Instead of like going to her client as a professional lawyer and also going to the man that she obviously has feelings for, she decides that it's best to just ghost him and pretend like she's busy working on the case and like completely ignore him and make him think that it's all his fault and make him think that, you know, she doesn't like him and all this stuff. Like, this is another point where communication would have been great, because if she had just gone to him and been like, hey, this is happening, this is what this lawyer just said, what are we gonna do about it? Like, a lot of problems could have been avoided. So, of course, he gets super, super sad, and then this is, like, 2 weeks before the trial. So, like, 2 weeks later, they, like, start the trial, and they haven't, like, talked at all, I guess. Like, not even about case stuff? Like, what? So, the trial rolls around, and Nick and her, like, see each other, and Nick is just, like, super sad and mopey, like, understandably. But his case is going really well, like, during court. Like, everyone seems to be, like, talking very well about him. Like, all of the ex-dates have nothing but nice things to say about him. Like, it's looking great for him. Like, his case is going very well. But, like, Susan knows that the other side is going to call up the ex-girlfriend.
Tomorrow, we're going to tear apart Nick's character and motivation by delving into his relationships.
So after day one, she actually tells Nick that, like, this is going to happen. But then she says, I'm going to call her up instead. Like, I'm going to call her up first and, like, preemptive this move that they're making so that we can kind of shine a good light on you instead of a bad light. And he's like, oh, well, okay. She's, like, super upset because he's really, really sad. So then, like, we get this moment. Yeah, that's one of the best moments in the movie. Because, like, we all have those moments. Come on. So the next day, Susan calls up the ex-girlfriend. And then she's like,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, all this bad stuff about Nick, because, like, after 1,000 dates, like, what?
But then, like, it turns out that she was like,
nah, I was just overreacting, like, none of that was real, like, I didn't actually want that, like, I think that Nick is a great guy, and he deserves love, and this is not his fault.
I only wish him well.
She's like, okay, well, I'm done asking questions. And then the other lawyer asks nothing. He asks nothing.
No questions.
Like, this is a massive corporate lawyer who was going to call this witness up, and he literally can't think of a single way to twist her words. Like, he's a corporate lawyer. Like, you can't think of a single way? Really? Highly doubtful. Just, like, highly, highly doubtful. So then after all of this, he goes to talk to the ex, Nick does, and he's like,
well, thank you for, like, standing up for me, like, I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah.
And she's like,
I'm sorry, like, it was my fault.
And then she's like,
I could tell that you're in love with your lawyer.
I mean, like, could she see it in his eyes? Like, I don't know, they haven't been dating for, like, 2 years, and she left him, so, like, whatever, totally unrealistic. And he's like,
I'm scared.
but then she, like, of course, says, like, this.
There are no guarantees in love, Nick. Isn't that what this is all about?
So then Nick takes the stand, and it's time for him to just, like, completely close his case. Like, they have no more witnesses, they are winning, like, everything is on their side, and he decides that instead he's gonna say, I love my lawyer and I'm not gonna do this case anymore. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you had all of this in the bag, good sir. Like, you had this with a landslide. This, like, incompetent corporate lawyer was not gonna, like, he didn't have anything else up his sleeve. Like, they used the last card that he could. You know what? You could have just been like, I'm gonna take this $1 million, which, by the way, he wanted to use to build a children's wing of, like, the medical rehabilitation center. Like, he wanted to donate the money. He didn't even want the money for himself. He wanted to donate this $1 million. So he took $1 million away from the children so that he could confess his love in court and make this, like, big deal about it. I'm just like, no. This is so ridiculous and so far away from anything that anyone would do. Like, if you had the case in the bag, end the case, take your money, donate it, and then be like, lawyer lady, I love you. Let's be together. Like, seriously, that's all you had to do. It was so easy. It was right in front of you. $1 million. But you know what? It turns out it didn't matter anyway, because the bougie, like, lady celebrity was like, oh, well, this is like a big moment, and we'll give you $250,000 to donate to this thing anyways if you'll come and be the poster couple for our company. So the company that they're literally suing because it doesn't work and is unjust and unright, they're now going to go be the main face of the company because of what happened in court. And, like, they're gonna get so much PR, it's gonna be so great. Susan's like,
Well, we were gonna get $1 million and we were gonna win.
and then the lady's like,
Well, you didn't.
and it's like, yeah, you didn't. And they're like,
Well, we'll settle for 500,000.
and then the lawyer's like, I'm like, I can't with this lawyer. He's the worst part of the movie. It's awful. Anyway, they get $500,000 and they go decide to be the face of this company that they literally just spent 6 weeks suing. And that's literally the end of the movie. This movie was terrible. Like, it was so terrible. There were so many parts where I'm just like, oh, like, the only thing that I liked, really, I liked the coworkers. I like Rachel Lee Cook because of my bias for, like, the 90s movie that she was in that, like, I really, really liked as a child. But, like, seriously, that was pretty much all I liked about this movie. Like, everything else was just so bad. Pathetic corporate lawyers. Totally lame testimony and backstory for the ex-fiance, who, like, really wasn't even a necessary character. Like, you could have taken her completely out of the picture, and nothing would have changed. Nothing. It didn't affect the story in any way. I also didn't like how he threw out the case for no reason. I also don't like how he had, like, no flaws. Like, they didn't give him any character flaws except for he was sad that his fiance left him for no reason. It's like, why did they not give him any story at all? Like, you don't know anything about him. Like, you barely even know that he's, like, an ex-athlete. Like, they don't even barely mention it. Like, you forget. I don't even remember when they introduced it. I just remember them, like, talking about it. Also, the most unrealistic part of this movie is there's no way he wouldn't have found one person to click with 1,000 dates. 1,000 people. 1,000 women. There's just no way. So all of that being said, this movie was ridiculous. I don't recommend it, but you know, it's a cute little chick flick if you don't care about character development or people having actual, like, human flaws or people getting over actual human troubles. And if you like the kind of movie where a corporate lawyer just kind of falls over flat like a dead fish and doesn't really give a shit about what he's talking about, even though he's probably being paid millions of dollars in order to go to this court case against this teeny tiny little lawyer. But you know what? If you like that kind of thing, then all more power to ya. I'll be reviewing more movies like this and posting one every week. So if you liked this and you want to see more, subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see ya in the next video.